Having an exceptional relationship with your spouse affects every single aspect of your life and is crucial for experiencing your dream life together. I'm Rob Murgatroyd.
And I'm Kim Murgatroyd. Listen in on our honest, filter-free conversations as we navigate life and business together without killing each other.
You'll learn by osmosis how to transform the friction you feel in your relationship into a purposeful foundation that will allow you to grow together.
Welcome to the Friday Podcast.
Kimberly La Dolce Vita meets California Dreamin'.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Do you know what that means?
That was our old vision board.
That was our old vision.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, it's weird. We were pretty close.
So let me tell you something that actually quite relates to this. So when Rob and I were living in California and we were coming up with this idea of someday moving to Italy, and that someday, I think when we created the vision to move to Italy, I think the date we had in mind was like when Sophia was entering the 6th grade. I'm pretty sure because we wanted her to finish out the elementary school. And then when she was moving to like middle school, we were going to move to Italy. That was the intention. We ended up moving when she was in the 1st grade. And so we sped that one up quite a bit. But here's the irony about it. So we created this vision, right? And for my birthday in California, Rob did the sweetest thing. And he hired one of these people that makes these fancy picnics in different areas. We were on the beach. They brought in a table. They set the table. There was charcuterie and it's all Italian things. These poofs you could sit down on the beach. There was like a record player and the board is like a sandwich board with like chalkboard and it said Tuscany at the beach. And I was like, this is literally our vision, because we had the idea that once we came to Italy for a little bit and got that nudge and really wanted to move here someday, but Rob still wanted California. We decided we were going to do California for the school year and Italy in the summers. And we moved to California. And then we decided in California that when she was in the 6th grade, we were going to flop that. And we were going to do Italy for the school year and California in the summers. And so that Tuscany at the beach thing was very indicative of our dream at that moment, our vision.
I should say that this episode is part 3 of our Ultimate Vision series. So if you haven't listened to the first 2 parts, go back and listen to them because they are sequential to help you craft your vision. And this one's going to be short and sweet. What we're going to do is I'm going to read to you now the vision using the process that we gave you. I'm going to read to you the vision that is the end result of completing the exercises that we've given you in part 1 and part 2 as far as the written vision is concerned. Okay, so in our next episode, we're going to talk about what the vision board looks like. But in this episode, we're going to talk about what the written vision looks like that's going to help you craft the vision board.
Just before you read it, I want them to understand that everybody creates a vision board, but not everybody is visual. Rob is auditory. Rob likes to write, and he also likes to hear it. And so when he reads it, it's a way of him hearing it and him getting it out and being kinesthetically attached to the wording. The vision, I think you need to come at this from all ways. You need to hear it, you need to see it, you need to feel it for it to manifest and to build that momentum. So
even if you're auditory, you still need the visual component because nobody's 100%.
So you want to come at this from all aspects. So even if you're not a writer like Rob is, you still can get something out that is meaningful for you. And the way that we create this vision is within the framework of what's your perfect day. If you look at your have, be, and do, and you can translate that into a perfect day and take all those components and create a perfect day, a perfect kind of life. Because what we're not doing here is we're not doing the, I won the lottery and now I'm shopping all the time and I'm banging the Swedish volleyball team. And we're not going with the crazy shit. We're going with what does the day-to-day life look like that you are creating in that have, be, and do? What does that look like? So I wanted to give that framework at it. And so after Rob reads it, we'll go into a bit more detail about how you craft yours and his best practices for it.
I also think that there's no particularly right way to do it. The way that I did this one was I did it from the perspective, like Kim mentioned, of a day, a weekend, and what summers look like. The one that I'm writing now doesn't necessarily have that. It's more of a story that I wrote that I want for my life. So there isn't a right way to do this. If there is a right way, it would be to make sure that the vision includes all of the things that you did in the previous 2 episodes where we talked about ways to get in touch with your intuition. Let me read for you what we wrote. Now, bear in mind that for those of you that follow us on social media and you've seen our lifestyle, perhaps you've seen our home, our terrace, etc. When I read this, you will be like, okay, you just wrote your life. This was written way before we had this. Yeah, it was written a long time ago. Okay, so here's the vision. It's probably take 2 minutes. We live in a magnificent palazzo in Florence that mixes old world charm with state-of-the-art amenities. Our expansive outdoor terrace has sweeping scenes of the city and the nearby rolling hills of Tuscany, giving us a bird's eye picture of what we came there for. My day begins at 6 a.m. in our home office with a view, meditating, journaling, reading, and preparing myself for a great day ahead. At 7 a.m., the ringing church bell signal that Sophia is on her way in to see me. Sophia finds her way into her International School of Florence uniform, and as a family, we head to the bus stop. Along our walk, we chit-chat with Sophia about life, and we stay connected to her. We see her onto the bus and watch as it points herself towards her day of education in a magnificent villa in the hills of Tuscany. Kim and I strolled to Cibreo for our morning coffee, taking in the sights and sounds and vibe of Florence waking up. As our cappuccini disappears, leaving behind only its traces, we head home to work on projects that excite us. As the morning dissolves into the afternoon, we head for our energy-shifting workouts to recenter ourselves to give Sophia our total attention. Some days we take the afternoon off to explore the art and culture that lives in our beautiful adopted city. Our nights are filled with aperitivo hours and evening passeggiatas and dinners that are made from passion. On the weekends, we explore Tuscany's food, wine, and truffle festivals in the beautiful surrounding countryside. When the desire hits us, we hop on a quick flight to places like Paris, Mykonos, or Spain to take advantage of all the great countries that surround us. So you'll hear in that I would say it is probably 99% of our current life. And it's almost impossible for me to read that and not even myself think that I wrote it yesterday.
After the fact?
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. Now, I've done this a million times in my life, and I have yet to have anything hit it at this level. At first, I thought it was dumb luck, but I'm clear now why. Because everything in this vision is emotional. Everything in this vision was pure, intuitive. If you're asking me what I really fucking want, this is what I really fucking want. And that driver made this thing happen. And when we got here to Italy at first, we didn't have a sweeping view from our terrace. That wasn't 100% clear there. Most of it was there. Some of it wasn't there exactly in that way. But within 12 months, it was.
So when we first moved here, we were like Eloise at the plaza. We were living in a hotel looking for an apartment. And we signed the lease for our apartment within 30 days of being in Florence. But we couldn't move into the apartment for 9 more months because someone was living here. But the apartment is what we live in now. So technically, I think we had nailed it. But when we looked at apartments, we knew we could find our vision, and we literally manifested this. Now, this is interesting. Your California vision, I would say, was probably pretty accurate. But the things that didn't manifest in California were the car, because that was a should.
The house on the ocean.
The house on the ocean, the house on the sand, the Tesla. Those things didn't manifest because those things weren't your highest value. Going back to DeMartini, those were shoulds that you felt you should have, and they weren't what was truly in you. But the rest of it, the bicycling, the long walks, the surfing on the weekends, all of that showed up.
Which is why doing the work of identifying what is not just a should, but something that's emotional that you really want. All of this work, you'll see as we're going through this is part 3. You can see that when somebody does a vision board party and goes at 5 o'clock on December 14th and cuts out pictures and puts them on the vision board.
There's a big difference, Pete. keeps.
None of this work has been done. Like, you're just crafting something that looks cute.
I want to go to Mexico.
I want to go to Mexico.
Confidence. I can't. 128 pounds.
So at this stage of the game,
What are your best practices for creating a vision?
At this stage of the game, the best practices are to set expectations about what it takes to create that vision, right? So the first one is complete exercises in step 1 and 2. Can't say that enough. Step 2 is imagine like a piece of paper with a bunch of circles on it, and you have like, my vision looked like cobblestones, view of the city, weekend festivals.
It was your have, be, and do.
Yeah, but they were bubbles, right? They were just thoughts. They were thought bubbles. And then those thought bubbles turned into maybe 1, 2, or 3 sentences. So if it was cobblestone streets, the thought bubble, let's say I had the word cobblestone streets circled on the page, then the sentences were, feels so good to walk down the cobblestone streets and listen to the church bells. And then that went like, actually, you know what would be cool? It'd be cool to be woken up by the sounds of the church bells in the morning, softly rustling me out of sleep. And then it was take Sophia to the bus. And then it was like, how cool is it going to be to like watch the bus pick her up and watch it go off to the hills of Tuscany for her day of education. That feels really good that she's in a school in Tuscany, because coming from California, there was a lot of fear and there's metal detectors and all of that. So the opposite, that was when I did the angst, the toleration list, that was on that list. But then the opposite of the toleration list was she's tucked away safely in a beautiful school in Tuscany where I feel good about her. So you start to get a spark of 2, 3 sentences for each, and they don't go together cohesively into a story. They're just a splatter. And so every morning I set the timer for 20 minutes, and I said, I'm giving myself 20 minutes to just try and craft these sentences. And then sometimes I would sit there with these sentences and I'd be like, it's not quite right. The bus leaves for Tuscany. I don't know, something doesn't feel right. The bus points itself towards her day of education in a villa in Tuscany. That feels really good. Like that, oh, that's good. That was good.
Because it's descriptive of the entire idea.
Because it's descriptive. It's not about writing prose, right? It's not about writing perfectly flowery, poetic words. That's not what it's about. Because you can have a 5-cent emotional word that is worth way more than perfect grammar, right? What is the thing that punches you in the face that you're like, oh, that's it. That feels good. So you're looking for those words that when you read those, you're wrestling with this. You're toiling over the words that when you say that word, you're like, oh, that's it. That feels so good. On the weekends, I'm in Tuscany's festivals. At night, I've got a glass of wine and I'm looking up at the stars. Like, what are those words that really punch? Like, when I thought about California, I wrote, Kim and I are in a hoodie, drinking a glass of wine at night, looking up at the stars, and it's cool out, because it was fucking dog days of summer in Atlanta all the time, and bugs were hitting us in the face when we were outside. And I wanted to be in no humidity and wearing a hoodie at night. That meant something to me. I didn't want to be eaten up while my face felt like a goldfish can stick to it because it was so humid. So you're looking for these things that you're reversing, and you're trying to find words that mean something, and that requires time. And then you'd write them, and then the next morning when you have your 20 minutes, you read them again and you're like, it's close. I'm getting closer. That word is good. And you're literally toiling over it. And every word of this thing that I read to you still packs an emotional impact, because I took the time to write it and go, yes, we stop in the morning and have a cup of coffee, and we do it every morning because it matters to me.
So one thing that I want to point out, or a couple of things I want to point out from what you just said, is you want to use the positive form of all of these desires. Like, you don't want to say, I no longer have a goldfish stuck to my face, or I'm going to, or we finally have enough money.
Or it'll be so much fun when I get to.
Yeah, you are living it. So this is a present tense.
I walk Sophia to the bus in the morning with Kim.
Not I will walk, I walk now.
It will feel so good when I walk.
And you don't want to put anything in there that's going to nudge you emotionally into lack. Something like, we finally have enough money to redo the kitchen or whatever. You don't want that. My kitchen is redone perfectly. My kitchen is redone so every area is usable and efficient and beautiful.
You can even take it a step further. Like, it's hard to do this. And every single coaching client that I do this with, no matter how much I coach them in advance, they all make the same mistake. So like when you're in the kitchen, like if you have that kitchen, if I were to walk in that kitchen right now, it'd be like something along the lines of, I love my pasta making station. It feels so good every time I go to make fresh pasta, and this wide open station is there. I've got all the space that I need to do my pasta. It's literally, imagine that you had a friend here and be like, oh my God, this kitchen looks really cool. And you're like, yeah, it's great. This is exactly how I want it. I got all the space I need to make my pasta. I do my thing here and I do my thing there. Like where you're literally describing it to somebody and explaining what you did.
One thing that I love about your writing is you use all of your senses. So what does it look like? What do you hear? I hear the church bells. I smell the recipe coming from whatever. You don't smell a recipe, but you get my point. My feet hit the cobblestones. You're using all of your senses, which the more you do that, the more real it feels and the more you can step into it. And if you reread it the next day, there's many times, actually, this is a big one. If you're doing this with a partner, like your spouse, choose who's the writer, who's the one that is in charge of actual writing. Rob will write for us, and then he brings it to me, and he reads it, or he texts it to me, and I give him feedback. And I'm like, okay, that line is bullshit. We all know it. Like, we need to delete that. Or what about this? Or I really love it that way. And we collaborate on what we need to add to it or what we need to delete.
And it's frustrating because there were many times where I sent this to her, over months, and she would respond back, good, but not there.
Yeah.
And you're like, fuck. Like, I just spent 2 months every morning, good, but not there. You get the reverse. And the reverse is, with Kim, it's usually short and sweet. The reverse will be, that's it, you did it.
Yeah. But here's the thing. Like, I can hear people being like, oh my God, I want to invest all this time. Here's the thing. If you are going to live and you're going to do this over the next year, right? Let's say it takes you 3 months to craft your vision, to get extreme clarity, to get alignment in what you and your spouse want, to get the written vision done, to create the visual representation of that, which we'll talk about in the next episode. You get this all done. And it took you, God forbid, 3 months instead of one night at a drunken vision board party. You come home and there's just shit on your vision board that you didn't anticipate.
But your body looks great on it.
Someone else's body with your head cut out. Now, so you're going to create this, right? Let's say it takes you 3 months to create it, but then it manifests in half the time.
Even less. When people get clear on what they want, it manifests. When you write a vision in the way that we're describing in these 3 episodes, my experience as a coach for the last 5 years, or however long I'm doing this, my experience is that it happens within 6 months.
Right. And for us, it's 6 months to a year for sure is completely accurate.
And my experience for ones who don't do it is that every year at the end of the year, they say, I don't even know why I'm writing my goals because they never happen.
Right. And so this is the time that I'm saying this is the most important thing that you could possibly do to change your life right now. So if it takes you 3 months to do it, it is worth it. I promise. I'm sitting here in Italy with the sweeping terrace, listening. The church bells wake me. You asked me what time the church bells go off, 7 a.m. There's a light church bell at 6.
I was going to say there's one at 6. That's the one that gets me up.
There's a very light church bell at 6. There's a longer one at 7. The 6 a.m. wakes Rob up. The 7 a.m. wakes me up. And like, it's the cobblestone streets. Our kid goes off into the hills of Tuscany. And we go to coffee. This is literally our life. My point of saying this to you is if we didn't gain clarity, if we didn't go through this process, if we didn't collaborate and align in our vision, we would still be we would be doing this podcast from Atlanta, Georgia, to be honest. So is it worth the 3-month investment of your energy? Yes, it is. It is your literal dream life you're building here.
It's also getting in touch with yourself. There's a self-discovery process, and there's a relationship component here if you're doing it with somebody else, because what you're doing is you're tapping into what the other person wants too. And if you're going to be in a committed relationship with somebody, you just really fucking need to be aligned with them. All right, that's it for this week. We're going to go into part 4. If you want to grab our course, it's called Ultimate Vision Course for Couples, but you can certainly do it as an individual if you like. It's just more fun to do as a couple. In the show notes, you can grab the link, and you can also get $100 off by using coupon code
Vision 100.
That's it, everybody. Have a great week. See you next week. Hey, everybody, if you've ever thought about coming to hang out with Kim and I on one of our next Rob and Kim Italia events and you want to learn more, just click the Rob and Kim Italia link in the show notes and add your name and email, and we'll send you all the details as soon as they're available. We are obsessed with this country and how it affects you, and we want to share that magic of culture, food, wine, art, architecture, and some secret magic moments that we've cooked up with you. So be sure to add your name because these events sell out quickly.